West Ham United is more than a football club from East London. It is a story of industry, migration, working-class pride, unforgettable cup runs, painful near misses, and a fan culture shaped by place as much as by results. Based today in Stratford, the club plays at the London Stadium, a modern arena that symbolizes both ambition and controversy. But West Ham's identity was not built in a polished Olympic venue. It was forged in shipyards, carried through the tight streets around the Bullen Ground, and remembered through generations of supporters who speak about the club as part of family history. By the 2026-27 season, West Ham is set to compete in the EFL Championship after relegation from the Premier League, adding another chapter to a long pattern of resilience. The club's origins go back to 1895, when it was founded as Thames Ironworks. That name matters because it reveals the club's earliest purpose. This was not originally a global entertainment brand or a billionaire-owned sporting asset. It was a works team connected to an industrial community in East London, where football offered identity, recreation, and solidarity for people whose lives were tied to demanding labor. In 1900, the team was reformed as West Ham United, taking on a name that connected it more directly to its local area. Like many English clubs born in the late Victorian period, West Ham grew out of the relationship between sport and community, with football becoming a shared language for neighborhoods undergoing rapid social and industrial change. Before West Ham became a familiar name in the Football League, it competed in regional competitions such as the Southern League and Western League. These leagues were vital stepping stones in English football's early structure, especially for clubs outside the established Northern and Midlands power bases. West Ham's entry into the Football League in 1919 came at a time when the sport was reorganizing after the First World War. Joining the league gave the club a more permanent national stage and a clearer path toward elite competition. Just 4 years later, in 1923, West Ham reached the top flight. That promotion was a major milestone, proving that the club had moved beyond local promise and could compete within the strongest framework of English football. The year 1923 is remembered for another reason. West Ham reached the FA Cup final, the first one held at Wembley Stadium. The match became famous as the White Horse Final because of the huge crowd and the mounted police horse that helped restore order. West Ham lost the final, but simply being there placed the club inside one of English football's defining moments. The FA Cup carried enormous prestige, and Wembley was beginning its life as the national stadium. For West Ham, the defeat still became part of club folklore. It showed that this East London side could reach the biggest stage, even if the trophy itself remained out of reach for several more decades. In 1904, West Ham moved to the Bullen Ground, which would remain the club's home for more than a century. Often called Upton Park, the ground became central to the club's identity. It was not just where matches were played, it was where rituals formed. Supporters walked familiar routes, visited the same pubs, stood or sat near the same people, and passed matchday habits down through families. The Bullen Ground's atmosphere came from proximity, the stands felt close, the crowd could feel intense, and visiting teams knew they were entering a distinct East London environment. When fans speak about West Ham's soul, much of that feeling is tied to memories of the Bullen. West Ham's domestic trophy story is built around the FA Cup. The club has won the competition 3 times, in 1964, 1975, and 1980. Each victory came in a different football era, but together they created the image of West Ham as a cup club capable of rising above league position when the occasion demanded it. The 1964 triumph helped launch a golden period. The 1975 win reaffirmed the club's ability to produce memorable knockout football. The 1980 victory was especially striking because West Ham won the FA Cup while outside the top division, defeating Arsenal in the final. That remains one of the club's proudest achievements, a reminder that West Ham's history often values romance and defiance as much as consistency. West Ham's European history gives the club another layer of prestige. In 1965, it won the European Cup Winners' Cup, defeating 1860 Munich at Wembley. That victory came just 1 year after the FA Cup win and placed West Ham on the continental map. The club returned to the final of the same competition in 1976 but finished as runner-up. Decades later, West Ham lifted the Intertoto Cup in 1999, a minor European trophy but still part of its international record. Then came 2023, when the club won the second edition of the UEFA Europa Conference League. That night mattered deeply because it ended a long wait for a major trophy and gave a new generation its own European memory. Perhaps no part of West Ham's history is more closely tied to English football mythology than the 1966 World Cup. 3 West Ham players were central to England's triumph: Bobby Moore, Geoff Hurst, and Martin Peters. Moore captained England and became one of the most admired defenders in the history of the game, remembered for calm authority rather than physical aggression. Hurst scored a hat-trick in the final against West Germany, still one of the most famous individual performances ever produced on football's biggest stage. Peters also scored in that final, underlining West Ham's remarkable contribution. For supporters, 1966 is not just national history. It is club pride woven into the country's greatest football achievement. The phrase often associated with West Ham is the Academy of Football. It reflects the club's reputation for developing technically gifted players and giving young talent a platform. That reputation is closely linked to the era of Moore, Hurst, and Peters, but it has continued to shape how people view the club. West Ham fans have often taken pride in players who combine skill with courage, and in teams that try to play football with a certain style. Like all reputations, the Academy label can sometimes become idealized, especially during difficult seasons. But it remains important because it gives West Ham a footballing identity beyond trophies, a belief that the club should produce, nurture, and celebrate players who understand the game. West Ham has never fallen below the second tier of English football, a distinction shared by only a small group of clubs. Up to and including the 2025-26 season, it had spent 68 of 100 league seasons in the top flight. That record captures the club's unusual balance. West Ham has rarely been among the most dominant sides in England, but it has remained a significant presence across generations. The club's highest league finish came in 1985-86, when it placed third in the First Division. That season is remembered as a near-miss campaign, a glimpse of what West Ham could be when talent, form, and belief aligned. It also shows why supporters often feel the club has untapped potential. The move from the Bull and Ground to the London Stadium in 2016 was one of the most significant changes in West Ham's modern history. On paper, it promised growth, a larger capacity, modern facilities, and a chance to compete commercially with bigger Premier League clubs. But football grounds are emotional places, and many supporters felt the transition cost the club something intangible. The London Stadium was originally designed for athletics, not football, so debates about atmosphere, sightlines, and identity followed the move. For West Ham, the stadium represents both ambition and tension. It offers scale and visibility, yet it also asks a difficult question: how does a club preserve local character after leaving the home that defined it for generations? West Ham's rivalry with Millwall is among the most intense in English football. It is rooted in geography, class, Dockland history, and overlapping East and South London identities. Over time, the fixture gained notoriety because of repeated incidents of hooliganism, and that reputation has often overshadowed the football itself. But the rivalry also reflects how deeply clubs can be tied to local belonging. For many supporters, matches like this are not simply about points or cup progress, they are about pride, territory, and memory. Modern football has changed dramatically, with global audiences and heavy security, but the West Ham and Millwall rivalry remains a reminder of an older, raw football culture shaped by neighborhood boundaries. West Ham's colors are another key part of its visual identity. The club adopted claret, sky blue, and white in the early 1900s, with the most recognizable version, a claret shirt with sky blue sleeves, emerging in 1904. Those colors have become instantly associated with the club, connecting teams across eras even as players, owners, leagues, and stadiums change. Colors matter in football because they turn history into something visible. A shirt can evoke the Bull and Ground, FA Cup finals, European nights, relegation battles, and family memories all at once. For West Ham, claret and blue are not just design choices. They are symbols of continuity in a club that has repeatedly had to adapt. So the story of West Ham United is not a simple rise to dominance. It is a story of survival, identity, and unforgettable peaks. From Thames Ironworks to West Ham United, from the Bull and Ground to the London Stadium, from FA Cup glory to European triumph, from World Cup legends to championship challenges, the club has always carried a sense of history heavier than its trophy cabinet alone can explain. Its supporters have known pride, frustration, hope, and heartbreak, often in the same season. That is why West Ham remains compelling. It is a club shaped by East London roots, famous moments, and the constant belief that the next great chapter might still be waiting. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.